History is full of moments that changed the world forever. A single battle, a single decision, sometimes a single death. But what if one of history's greatest deaths never happened? What if Alexander the Great survived the illness that was supposed to end his life? Would Rome have ever become an empire? Would the ancient world have united under one ruler? Or would Alexander's greatest victory become humanity's greatest mistake? Tonight, we're stepping into another reality. The year is 323 BC. For 13 years, Alexander has done what no king before him could. He has defeated the mighty Persian Empire, freed Egypt from foreign rule, founded more than 20 cities, and marched nearly 20,000 kilometers across deserts, mountains, and endless battlefields. By the age of just 32, his empire stretches from Greece to the borders of India. No nation has ever controlled so much land. No commander has ever won so many battles without suffering a single military defeat. To his enemies, he is unstoppable. To his soldiers, he is more than a king. He is destiny. Every victory makes his legend grow. Every conquered city whispers the same name, Alexander. But power was never enough for him. He didn't dream of ruling a kingdom. He dreamed of changing the world. Alexander believed that one empire could end centuries of war. One empire could connect East and West. One empire could unite different cultures under a single future. It was an impossible dream. At least, that's what everyone believed. Because beyond the southern deserts, one final campaign was waiting. Arabia. Not because it was the richest land, but because it controlled the trade routes connecting Africa, Asia, and Europe. Whoever ruled Arabia could control the heartbeat of the ancient world. Alexander knew it, his generals knew it, and preparations had already begun. Shipbuilders worked day and night. Maps covered the palace walls. Supply caravans stretched for miles. His greatest expedition was only weeks away. Then, without warning, everything changed. After a royal banquet in Babylon, Alexander suddenly fell ill. At first, no one panicked. He had survived arrows, spears, swords, surely. A fever couldn't defeat the man who had conquered the world. But by the next morning, the fever burned hotter. The palace grew silent. The celebrations stopped. And outside the royal gates, thousands of battle-hardened soldiers waited, praying for the one victory their king had never needed before, the victory over death itself. Babylon had never felt so quiet. The city that had celebrated 1,000 victories now held its breath. Inside the royal palace, the most powerful man on earth lay helpless. His fever refused to break. The royal physicians tried everything they knew. Rare herbs, ancient remedies, sacred rituals. Nothing worked. Hour after hour. Alexander grew weaker, outside. His soldiers waited in silence. These were men who had marched beside him for over a decade. Men who had crossed deserts without water, scaled impossible mountains, and charged into battles they were never expected to survive. They had never seen Alexander surrender, not to an army, not to a king, not to fear, but now. They were watching him lose a battle no sword could win. In our timeline, this is where history changed forever. On a warm day in June, 323 BC, Alexander the Great died. He was only 32 years old, and the moment his heart stopped, his empire began to break apart. His greatest generals, men who had once fought shoulder to shoulder, turned against each other. Brother became rival, ally became enemy. The dream of one united empire shattered almost overnight. Within a few decades, Alexander's kingdom existed only in memory, and while his successors fought for power, a small republic in the west quietly grew stronger. Its name was Rome. History remembers Rome as the empire that would shape the future of Europe. But tonight, we're changing one single moment, one heartbeat, one breath, one life. Imagine that on the seventh night, the fever finally begins to fade. Alexander's breathing slows. The room falls silent. The physicians look at one another, unsure if they're witnessing medicine or a miracle. Then, Alexander opens his eyes. No one speaks. No one moves. For a long moment. The entire room forgets how to breathe. Then Alexander whispers, "Prepare the maps." Not, "Bring me water." Not, "Call my family." His first thought is the empire. By sunrise, the news explodes across Babylon. The king lives. Temple bells echo through the streets. Merchants abandon their stalls. Children run through the city shouting his name. Veteran soldiers, men who had never cried in battle, fall to their knees. Some call it fate, others call it divine intervention. But Alexander calls it a second chance. And this time, he refuses to waste it, because surviving death changes a man. It teaches him something. No battlefield ever could. Life is short. Dreams are not. Alexander's survival changes everything, not because he lives, but because he thinks differently. For the first time in his life, he realizes even the greatest conqueror cannot defeat time. So instead of chasing endless victories, he begins chasing something far greater, a legacy. Weeks after recovering, Alexander gathers his generals inside the palace. A giant map covers the table. Every kingdom, every sea, every trade route lies before him. The room waits in silence. Then Alexander points south. Arabia. Not because he wants more land, because he wants control of the roads that connect the world. If we control trade, he tells his commanders, we control peace. Months later, the campaign begins. Thousands of soldiers cross the desert. Warships sail into unfamiliar waters. Cities prepare for another bloody conquest. But something unexpected happens. Alexander doesn't destroy them. He negotiates. He protects their traditions. He keeps local rulers in power, as long as they remain loyal, one by one. The gates open, without endless bloodshed. Within only a few years, Arabia becomes part of the largest empire in human history. And suddenly, something remarkable begins to happen. Goods move faster than ever before. Silk from the east, glass from Egypt, spices from Arabia, ideas from Greece, all travel across the same roads. Merchants become richer, cities become larger, and knowledge spreads faster than armies ever could. Babylon transforms into the beating heart of the ancient world. Its libraries grow, its schools welcome students from every corner of the empire. Greek philosophers debate with Persian astronomers. Egyptian engineers work beside Indian mathematicians. For the first time, different civilizations aren't just trading goods, they're sharing ideas. Alexander walks through the streets of Babylon. He watches children, speaking different languages, playing together for the first time. He believes his dream is becoming real, not an empire built by fear, but a civilization built by unity. It seems history has finally found peace, but history always demands a price, far beyond the Western Sea. A young republic has been watching, learning, preparing, growing stronger every year. Its soldiers are disciplined, its leaders are fearless, its ambition has no limits. Its name is Rome. And unlike every kingdom Alexander has faced before, Rome has no king to defeat, only an entire nation, determined to become the next master of the world. Years pass, and Rome continues to grow, not through luck, but through discipline. Its armies become stronger, its generals become smarter, its ambition becomes impossible to ignore. Alexander understands one thing: if he waits, Rome will eventually become powerful enough to challenge everything he has built. So, for one final time, the greatest conqueror in history leads his army into battle. The Mediterranean fills with warships, thousands of veterans. Men who have followed Alexander for nearly 20 years march toward Italy, across Rome. Fear begins to spread. The stories are impossible to ignore. The man who defeated Persia, the king who survived death itself, is coming. The first battles shake the ancient world. Roman discipline clashes with Macedonian brilliance. For months, neither side gives way. Every victory comes at a terrible cost. Thousands fall, cities burn, families flee. For the first time in his life, Alexander realizes something. Winning a war is much easier than protecting peace. Finally, after one last decisive battle, Rome agrees to surrender, not because its people lacked courage, but because history met Alexander, too soon, for the first time. Nearly the entire known world stands united. Roads stretch across continents. Trade never stops. Scholars travel freely. Greek philosophy, Egyptian engineering, Persian astronomy, and Indian mathematics begin shaping one civilization. The world enters an age of discovery. New medicines save lives. Great libraries preserve knowledge. Ideas spread faster than armies ever could. It feels as if humanity has found its future, but every empire, no matter how powerful, carries the same weakness. It depends on the person who holds it together. Years later, Alexander grows old. The warrior who once slept beside his soldiers now walks slowly through the gardens of Babylon. He looks at the empire he built and finally understands no man can rule forever. Before his death, he does something history never allowed him to do. He chooses a worthy successor. He creates laws instead of legends. He builds institutions strong enough to outlive a single king. And when Alexander finally dies, the empire does not collapse overnight. It changes, it evolves, it survives. Not because one man remained alive, but because one man finally learned. That lasting greatness isn't built with...
So tell us, what historical event should we rewrite next?
Subscribe to What If Vault, and together, let's explore the world that never was.